I created a list of all the tools I use in my graphic design business, and I want to share that with you in today's video. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan, if you have not been here before, and this is Leo. That was perfect timing. He is looking for his little toy, so if you see him in the background, that is what he's doing. But welcome to my channel. I'm super excited to share with you guys today all the tools I use in my graphic design business, from the tools I use to help me with my finances, to the tools that help me with designing, and all the things in between. I'm going to share that with you today. So let's get right into it. I organize these within sections, and the first section I want to talk about is the client-facing tools that I use. These are the tools that help me present the things that I need to present to my clients, and also the things that help me stay organized with my client projects. So number one is DUBSADO. I know I talked about that lots of times the past few months because I just launched that course, but I do have DUBSADO help me with my project management and my CRM system, which is customer relationship management or relations management, and it helps me stay organized with the clients I have in process, the clients that are completed, and the new leads that I get every week or every month. I'm able to organize all that in one seamless place. So DUBSADO is something I use weekly, and I wanted to mention that because that is a big tool that's helped me in my design business. The second client-facing tool that I use all the time is Google Drive. So I like to use a lot of the Google tools because they really do help, and I like to send all my client logos, all my client files, and also allow my clients to upload things into the Google Drive before the website process begins. And it's just like a really nice way for us both to collaborate and for them to go download the files. And I have used Dropbox in the past, and I just didn't love it because it was kind of expensive to subscribe to, especially when you reach the amount where you have to pay for more storage. Bless you. I didn't know he was behind me, but it definitely gets a little bit pricier. That's why I typically like to use Google Drive over that. And I have like 1 terabyte, I believe, and it's not that expensive. I'll put the price on the screen. It adds up, but it was a little less than Dropbox, and I feel like it's just easier for me to use because I'm able to access it with my email and all in one place. That's the name of the game. I like to have everything all in one place, and that really does help me make that possible. The next tool that I use to help me with my client-facing tasks is Canva and Pitch. So I talked about Pitch in one of my previous videos. They allow me to create really beautiful presentations for my clients using AI, and I'm still getting the hang of it, but I really love to use that for presenting my clients, the client experience, the timeline, or even just the brand guideline in like a really beautiful way. So that's been helpful and also a huge time saver. But I typically would use Canva to just help me create super quick and easy guidelines and templates for them to understand the process. And it was just easier for me to plug the client's name in using that Canva pre-made the template that I created, just plugging in their name that way. It saved me a lot of time, especially during those busy seasons. I don't feel like I want to use Canva moving forward because it just doesn't feel as custom, and I want it to have more character to the design, and I just feel like I can only achieve that on Adobe Illustrator and those types of tools. So like I said, during those busy seasons, it was so helpful, and I do find it helpful still for like social media stuff, but I just feel a little limited with my design, like all the custom things on there. It's definitely a little more limited, but does help quite a bit. Okay, let's talk about the design tools I use. I know I get questions on this quite a bit in terms of like the app I use to draw those custom logos, or what exactly, where am I designing my things? So number one, first and foremost, the one I use all the time, every single week, is Adobe Illustrator. I remember when I didn't know how to use Adobe Illustrator, I learned how to design on Adobe Photoshop, and I had to kind of get jumped into learning Illustrator because I was working at a corporate company and that's all they used. So I was kind of forced to learn it, and I'm really glad that I did because it's an amazing platform, especially for like logo designs and branding designs. There's a lot of illustrative custom techniques that you can use, and I will let you guys know I am currently creating a platform where I will have a ton of Adobe Illustrator tutorials, so definitely stay tuned for that. But it's a great platform, and I like to design pretty much everything on there. like everything. When I say everything, I mean everything from logos, the brand guides, to social media graphics, business cards, all the things I do on Adobe Illustrator. In addition to Adobe Illustrator, I also use Adobe Photoshop occasionally. So I know I just mentioned that that's actually where I learned how to design. I was originally wanted to be a photographer, so I knew Photoshop like the back of my hand. Nowadays, I don't use it as much, so I still feel a little like it just lacks so much that Adobe Illustrator has. So I don't use it as often anymore, but I do use it when I'm mocking up any of the logo designs. So I've mentioned this in my logo course and many times before, but to really present the logo nicely, not only on your portfolio, but for your clients in their brand guidelines, or even just to give them some graphics so they can visualize how their branding will look in the real life. That's all through mockups, and most mockups are created on Photoshop because it's really easy to just orient it so it looks like it's actually on the tote bag or the water bottle or anything like that. Photoshop is the place where you can mock things up and make it look really nice. So I use Photoshop mainly for that, for the imagery and for the photography in my business. And also it's a nice place to just like add some really cool texturizing effects. I feel like I tend to use Photoshop more often for that, even when it comes to like logos, making like the grainy effect or having it look embossed or stitched or things like that. Feels a lot easier on Adobe Photoshop than it does on Illustrator for me personally. So I'd like to kind of have them both open and kind of jump between the two, but I do tend to use Photoshop still pretty often in my business. The other design tool that I use is Procreate. So this is one that I use a lot, and I feel like it's like the little secret sauce to making a really custom, beautiful brand or logo or elements, is to draw it on the iPad. And to make that possible, that is using Procreate. I remember seeing a long time ago artists using it, and I just thought it was so cool that you could have like a pen. It's like pen to paper, and I just think it's the most awesome thing ever. I like genuinely get so excited when it comes to drawing on my iPad. It's so fun. So even if you are aspiring to be a designer, or that's something that you kind of want to get into, I would recommend just getting the app to play around with it. It's about $30, just I think one-time fee. Like I said, I'll put the price on the screen here because I can't remember, but I think you just pay one time and you get access to create like really awesome custom illustrations. And like I said, you don't have to be doing this just for logos. You can make these custom elements for like a website design, or I like to make like holiday cards and draw out like a really fun illustration for those. So I think it's just a really fun app to have, and it kind of just allows me to expand my creativity, just having like a really awesome pen to paper kind of feel, but in a digital way. And then I typically take those drawings and bring them into Illustrator and vectorize them, which is something I teach in my logo design course. But it's a easier way to bring a digital drawing, like a completely custom drawing, into a vectorized logo. And there's definitely still a way to do it from paper to Illustrator. You can like take a picture, bring it in that way, but it's just a little easier to like quickly erase things on Procreate and just redo things a million times. You can also animate on Procreate, which is really fun. I have a video on that I'll link above. But I think it's an awesome app, and I definitely recommend just trying it out. I feel like it's not too expensive, so it's kind of fun to just play around with and have that option for any of your branding designs. The last tool that I use for design purposes is Figma. So I've made so many tutorials in the past on Adobe XD, and don't get me wrong, I still love Adobe XD. I think it's a great platform, but it's so similar to Figma, just not as, it's lacking a lot more than Figma has. So I've definitely made the transition this last year to using only Figma for my website designs. And also there's a thing called FigJam on Figma that allows you to kind of create like really fun mood boards and a collaborative experience to throw out ideas onto this like giant notepad. So I think there's so many options within Figma, and I do enjoy it. I do have to pay for it now because I've reached the limit of the free amount of website mockups. So I do pay for it, which is kind of unfortunate because Adobe XD was part of my subscription with Adobe. So that is a little bit of a bummer. I'm sure there's a way around it, but right now that is something that I have to consider. But I do use that for every single website design client I have. I like to mock up my websites before I develop it, and that's the easiest way to do it. And it's also nice because they can drop comments and we can really collaborate on the web design. So that's typically why I like to use it. Another tool that I use for like design and content and all those is Adobe Premiere Pro. So if you're wondering where I edit my YouTube videos, that is where I edit them. I also occasionally will edit like Reels on Adobe Premiere Pro, but I love Premiere. I don't know, I've tried all the other ones. I've tried what's it called? Final Cut Pro. I've tried there was like this app that came with the Apple computer. I've tried them all, but I learned how to edit videos on Premiere, and it's kind of hard to like go learn something else. Oh, After Effects. After Effects was the one I was thinking of, which I'm still in the process of learning, but it's very complicated. It's just a lot more to it. So I typically only use Premiere for my videos, and I really love it. If you guys want to see more videos on that and how to use it, let me know. But that's what I use for my video editing. Okay, so those are all the design tools that I use to make everything come to life. But I'm probably missing a few in there, to be honest. I feel like there's new tools every week, and it's kind of like that shiny object syndrome where a new tool comes up and it's like, I want to try it, or I want to try this, or I want to try that. But I try to just stick to what works, and I try not to overthink it. And that handful of tools, those tools just work the best for me, and they produce the best product for me right now. So I do love those for designing. Let's talk about some tools I use internally to help me stay organized as the designer. So first and foremost, it's something I haven't mentioned very much on here, but it's Airtable. I went back and forth for so long on whether I should dive into learning Notion or Airtable or ClickUp or all the things, and I wasted so much time just trying to figure out which one was the best, and I ended up really liking Airtable. I tend to use, and this is something else I'll mention, but I tend to use Google Sheets a lot and Excel sheets, and I just feel like it works well for my brain, just organizing them in like tables. So Airtable allows me to do that, but it also allows me to, it just has more features than like Excel does, in the way that I can like assign things to people, and also like choose different categories and see it in a calendar view, and it's really, really nice. So I've been really enjoying that for my personal like content planning when it comes to like YouTube, or for the future things I have planned that I've been organizing in there. It truly helps me, especially with content. And I've dabbled with the idea of using it for like a client portal, but I typically like to just use DUBSADO for all my client facing items, and that just works well for me. But Airtable is amazing for organization. Google Sheets. So you're probably wondering why I'm using Airtable, Google Sheets, all the things, but I feel like Google Sheets, I like to have that for my financial charts, all the things where I can see what I'll be like making that month, and my expenses and my income, and I just like to lay it out in this way. I created this like template a while back that just mentally helps me see what to expect for the month, and that's really the only thing I use Google Sheets for. I don't really use it for anything else besides helping me with my all my financial tips. So I love it for that, but that's really all I use it for. I feel like the financial side of things, I have them in a lot of places because it's important to know your expenses versus your income and just staying on track with that. And I like to make sure that I'm updating that often and going in there and making sure I'm not missing any like monthly payments. And there's a lot of apps and a lot of tools and things that can make that way easier. And I've tried a lot of them, but Google Excel or Google Sheets just works the best for me. So whatever works for you, just stick with it. That one works for me. So that's what I've been using. And the third tool that I use that kind of goes into that last one is QuickBooks Online. So I invested in this this time last year, because I was nervous about taxes and understanding all the cards I have in my business. So like my credit card, my debit card, and also my business card. I wanted to have a place where I could see them all and the profit and loss reports and all that. So that has been really helpful, especially when it comes to tax season, because I can connect my QuickBooks to TurboTax, which is what I'll be doing this year or next year. And that just helps me a ton with making sure I have all the expenses and all the write-offs and everything organized. And then I also use this tool called Thinkific, which you guys have probably seen before if you've ever joined one of my courses. But Thinkific is the platform I use to create and sell my courses. So I ultimately decided on Thinkific because, number one, I loved the user interface. I think it just looked a lot cleaner than a lot of the other brands, and I enjoyed the platform itself, and I was taking courses from another creator that was using that platform, and I really liked it as a student, so that's how I decided on that. And also the pricing, it was a little bit cheaper than like Teachable and things like that, and it just kind of came down to that as well. But I do really like it, and once I got in there, I kind of realized that the price gets hiked up a little bit with all the features you have to add on, but I've been really happy with it, so that's what I use for my courses. Another tool I want to mention is Flowdesk, which is what I use for my email marketing. This is where I collect all the emails, create my email list, make all my forms that pop up on my website, and also I'll have some workflows in there so that I can sell the courses and provide information and just connect with everyone that is interested in the courses on like a more personal level. I think an email list is one of the most important things you can do as a business owner. To have that kind of direct communication with your followers is so important, and I just feel that I can connect with people more by just popping up in their inbox. So I do enjoy Flowdesk. I like Flowdesk because you can make really pretty emails, which is important for the design world. So I do enjoy it for that as well. The last tool I want to mention today, which I'm sure I'm missing some, but ChatGPT. I have to admit, I do use it. I use it for, sometimes I will bounce ideas off ChatGPT in terms of like the brand mission or the brand strategy, or if I have questions on like, I don't know, like design questions. I typically don't ask it much about like what to design, but I do like to get some ideas for the brand mission and strategy, typically from ChatGPT. And also, I'm not gonna lie, you guys, I have used it before to write some difficult emails for me, so that's been super helpful for that. I think ChatGPT is really impressive, honestly. When you ask it some things, I'm like, dang, that answer was spot on. So I don't think you should be afraid to use it. It's a really helpful tool. Especially, also another way I use it is if I need to like plug in some placeholder content on my client's website, it can come up with like relevant placeholder content. So that's also really, really cool too. Those are all the tools I wanted to mention today. I hope that was helpful to kind of hear what's in my toolbox as a graphic designer. I use these a lot. I feel like almost monthly I'm using every single one of these. So I really hope that was helpful to hear. Let me know if there's any tools I didn't mention that you like to use. But I do want to mention again that it's important to not get hung up on the tools that you're using. I have seen so many people get so wrapped up in that shiny object syndrome where they just want to try all of them and then they ultimately get overwhelmed because there's so many tools out there. So just find what works for you, and there's no right or wrong answer, honestly. There's a lot of tools out there, so don't get overwhelmed. Leo agrees with me. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate it. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe down below, and I will see you guys in my next video.